What was the worst financial mistake you've ever made? Maybe you've had multiple and you don't even know which one was worse. We're going to talk about what these people have done in this Reddit thread because we can all relate to the pain that these people have been through because we've all been there as well in some way or another. So we're going to go through this and find 10 of our favorites. For those of you who don't know, I am an entrepreneur going on 13 years of owning businesses. Married, I've got 2 kids, and I like talking about money, making money, and helping other people with their money and their business journey. So if you like that, subscribe to my channel, and let's get going. Gonna start from the top of this page. Running up credit cards during hard times. Got 712 upvotes there. Running up credit cards during hard times is very easy to do. I like that this person brought this up because they know it was a mistake. At the time, it doesn't feel like a mistake because you need the money, right? So what am I going to do to get this money to pay these bills, whatever. But, the long-term consequences of running up credit card debt is detrimental to all of us. Now, I think credit cards are poisonous and not a good idea to have for 99% of the people out there. Because no matter how good you think you are at handling money, anyone with a credit card can prove that wrong. A couple of reasons, right? The argument of, well, I need a credit card to build credit. We're not even going to get into that one because there are a million reasons that people come up with as to why they think credit cards are great tools. And what you need to understand is that the banks always win, no matter what. The points that you're racking up, that you're trying to pay for your air travel with, your restaurants, your hotels, whatever you're paying for your little points with, they are able to pay those points out because of the interest that you or other people pay. So that 20 to 30% interest rate that you are paying on your credit cards are going into other people's pockets in the form of points. Or if you are getting the points and you have debt that you're not paying off quickly enough, then that interest rate is just it's just killing you. It's killing you very, very slowly. And people, some people are gonna start a fight in the comments about credit cards and how great they are, but they're not. I think that people are going to relate credit cards to cigarettes one day. They will realize how bad they are for you and how bad they are for the public in general. Do cigarettes kill everybody? No, there's people in their 80s and 90s who still smoke and they didn't die. But are they bad for the general public? Yeah, they are. They just are. I hope that there's a chance the only hope that I have right now is that the interest rates are going to get capped at that 10%. And I only want that because people are just getting killed. It's like it's not the equivalent to a loan shark or payday loan that's 700 or 800%, but it's the same idea. For people who don't pay off their balances, for people who use their credit cards in awful, irresponsible ways, it is the equivalent to payday loans and loan sharks that people are, I'll just say this. Banks are giving credit cards out to people that should not be allowed to have them. That's it. Moving on. Emotional spending. This is the next one. Emotional spending. Buying things I don't need to try and feel better about myself, unfortunately, has been a lifetime habit. And this happens to a lot of people. People will use their money to try and make themselves feel better by buying stuff they don't need. And initially, you get that great dopamine hit, but it wears off really quickly. And then you don't have any money in your bank account. And some things that you buy aren't returnable. I mean, people do this with food. People do it with clothes. People do it with vacations. People do it with all this stuff that they think is going to make them happy. And what I would say to that is people are too often trying to chase this feeling of happiness. And what they should be chasing instead is fulfillment, because there is a big difference between happiness and fulfillment. And happiness comes and it goes, and it's fleeting and it's moments. Fulfillment is something that you can be unhappy and feel fulfilled. You can be unhappy and still be fulfilled. This is a really tough one for people to get out of because it just involves active, hard work of making disciplined decisions and not spending things. It's not spending money on things you don't need that you can't even afford. That's most of the problem, is like, not only are you doing it to make yourself feel better and fill a hole that can't be filled with stuff or things that you buy, but you can't even afford to do it. You really can't. You're not saving money. You're constantly behind on bills or on the edge of not being able to pay bills. It's really sad, but we've all done it. We've all been there. Okay, next, not buying a house in 2020 with 2% interest rates. This is painful for so many people because we are in a very weird housing situation right now where house prices are so much money and interest rates are higher than what they were. They're not as high as they used to be, but the houses, 30 years ago were also a lot less money. So this is rough for so many people right now. And I'm sorry, you can roast me in the comments, but I am one of those people that happened to buy a house the month before COVID in February of 2020. And I secured a 3% interest rate. Just pour your hate in the comments because I totally empathize and understand a lot of the people my age and my friends and just people in the world who, if they could go back and change time, they would. Yeah, that sucks. I really am sorry. I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry. It's rough, but you will get a house someday when you can afford it. Ooh, that didn't land well. Okay, this is a good one. Marrying my soon-to-be ex-wife. In all seriousness, who you marry has a huge impact on your financial future. So this guy married someone a long time ago, and she's about to be his ex-wife. And who you marry does matter in so many ways, but financially is massive. And if you guys don't line up with your values and your goals and what you actually believe about finances and money, it's going to be a big problem. I mean, a lot of people know the statistic about 50% of 50% of marriages end in divorce. But a lot of those problems, the number one problem in marriage is people fighting about money. So it is important. And I am very fortunate that when I met my wife at the time, we had long conversations and discussions about money. And, thankfully she was someone who was really responsible with her money. She knew how to save. She knew how to, budget. She had a job after college. Her parents taught her well. And it was pretty easy for us to figure out finances together and agree on a lot and come up with a plan once we did get married, and share our bank account. I do think people should share bank accounts when they get married. Not before, though. Please don't do that. Please don't be not married to someone and share your bank account. And don't buy a house with someone you're not married to. Please don't do any of that. Next, buying a $30,000 sports car at 20 and crashing it in less than 2 years. For those wondering, it wasn't a supercar or anything close to that. It was a Camaro, and I bought it back in 2010. That does stink. I'm curious, though. He said buying a $30,000 sports car at 20 and crashing it in less than 2 years. But was it a financial mistake? Because, okay, there's a few ways this could be a financial mistake. Maybe number one is he just couldn't afford it in the first place, and he's paying payments on something he couldn't afford. And then he crashed it 2 years later. But if he had insurance, then he would be fine. And He could just take the insurance money and be good. I mean, yeah, there'd be some depreciation probably. And, you know, if he doesn't have good insurance, like maybe he doesn't have full coverage and he only paid for the other person's car. Yeah, that's a massive financial. His mistake was not buying the right insurance then at that point, because then he's out a car and still owes money. Oh my gosh. Maybe this is what happened. Maybe he bought this car on payments and he didn't have the right insurance and he still owed the 30 grand, even though insurance wouldn't pay for his car because he didn't have full coverage. That would be so bad. And I know people do that out there and it's sad. Guys, if you can't afford, you have to get full coverage. Unless you have a beater car, you need to spend the little bit extra money on the minimum full coverage option. I don't care if you raise your deductible. Don't leave your deductible at $500. Put it at $1,000, $1,500 minimum. Get full coverage so this doesn't happen to you, especially if you're doing your car on debt payments, which I also don't recommend. Please pay for your cars in cash. I know that's a foreign, weird concept to a lot of you, but don't just buy a car in cash and get the right insurance. At the end, he says, for those of wondering, it wasn't a supercar or anything close to that. Of course it wasn't. It was $30,000. Why would it be a supercar? It was a Camaro, and I bought it back in 2010. I don't know when. So maybe he bought a 2010 model, and in 2 years, in 2012, he crashed it. I don't know. This is a weird one because we don't know the details, but I'm assuming that he's either just sad that he crashed it, or he didn't give us all the details of not the right kind of insurance, and he was in debt with it, which would be absolutely awful, and don't do that. Next one, payday loans. It was like the credit cards, but payday loans are so much worse because the interest rate on payday loans are like 600 to 700, 800%, and you just get completely screwed. And payday loans are truly, truly advertised to people in poverty and people who they can prey upon because they know they will do it. And unfortunately, payday loans are used for people who are addicts as well. And it's just sad. Payday loans are the worst. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad for people who fall into this trap. This guy went through a divorce and had small girls and no help. So I guess he had small kids who were girls, walked away from a house, and we had to get help with the kids. House was $116,000 and now worth $600,000. I regret it almost every day. I was not thinking, just reacting. So I don't know the entire story of them walking away from the house or him. Maybe he just couldn't afford it by himself. But yeah, so at the time, I guess they had bought it for 116, or that's what it was worth. And then later on, I don't know how many years it was, 600,000. Real estate does not always go up, but a lot of the time it does. If over many years it does. And that is a very, very rough thing to experience, to look back on. And you know what? He realized that he was not thinking, he was just reacting emotionally to everything. How are you going to know? If he was under so much stress from a divorce, having little kids, this is a scary time. I'm not going to beat down on this guy. He was going through it, right? And maybe he didn't have people in his corner to help him. He didn't have the right friends, the right support to really help him make the right decision here. So that's rough. Oh man, this is so great. Not buying an apartment complex in 2008 instead of being in middle school. 2008. Let's think back to 2008 for myself. When did Halo 3 come out? Halo 3, 2007. So, yeah, I was playing Halo 3 in 2008 and probably Guitar Hero. And while I was playing Halo 3 and Guitar Hero, my parents were probably trying to figure out how to not lose our house. That's what was going on in my life. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about buying apartment complexes, but I wish I was. And this person under it said, idiot. Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, I love these memes because I've seen a bunch of these memes where they're like, I wish, like me playing Guitar Hero while my parent, instead of buying Bitcoin or whatever it was. Which another one that's great over here. Where was it? Ah, there it is. Not buying Bitcoin in 2010. Yeah, exactly. Even the people that did buy Bitcoin in 2010, so many of them sold it by the time it got to $100. So, I mean, there's very few people that held. I know a few. I know like one person that's held since like 2014, but he only has like 4 or 5, full Bitcoins, which is still a lot of money. But I know when he first bought them, he's so mad at himself because he had like 2 or 3 thousand Bitcoins. Anyway, so not buying Bitcoin in 2010 and not buying apartment complexes in '08 instead of being in middle school. That's hilarious. Let's go to a different one. Marrying a person who was a sociopath. He gutted all my money accounts and broke me mentally and emotionally. I never got healthy again, especially not financially. Yeah, so this person went through abuse. So that's sad. Yeah, marrying the right person is crazy important because it affects everything. And money is such a massive part of our life. This is why it's so important to really know who you are getting in bed with. No pun intended. When it comes to marriage, knowing who they are deep down is very, very important. Knowing how they grew up, knowing if your values and goals line up long term. There is no way to guarantee that a marriage is going to be perfect and the person you married, at the time is going to be the same 10 years from now, and they're not. Everybody changes. Everyone is a different person after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, hopefully in the right direction. And that is the key is marriage, just like everything, is risk. And the more you know someone, the more you know their background, the more you see their behaviors in a positive way, their positive behaviors, the more you see all of these things help you make a decision based on how high or low a risk it is to marry somebody. And are they on the same page as far as money and commitment? And not everybody is. It's a sad situation. Not learning how to properly invest in my 20s, opening a bank IRA isn't enough and is one of the worst products you can invest in. Okay, what this person means probably by a bank IRA, because IRAs in general, that's not an investment, it's just where your money is held. You actually have to invest it into funds that bring you returns. So they probably just opened a bank IRA and the money just sat there and did nothing is probably what happened. Instead of understanding that, okay, I can contribute this money to the bank IRA, but I also have to invest it in something, which most bank IRAs I would not recommend. I would just go with a normal investment company, and open up basically, ideally, a Roth IRA if you can, and then you invest that into mutual funds, not single stocks, especially if you don't know what you're doing. But don't do any of this unless you know what you're doing. This person didn't know what they were doing in their 20s. And they had to learn the hard way that they could have put money in for 10 years and saw no growth other than the money they put in because that money was never invested anywhere. So that sucks. And don't invest into things you don't understand. That's a very, very simple rule. Can apply to everything in life. Student loans. Yeah, that's the next one. Student loans are the devil. I don't recommend anyone getting student loans, which actually I'm going to segue this into the very top. The top is what this person is talking about right here. They said, I feel regret choosing a career in medicine The cost of the degree is immense, and I don't know if I'll be able to make it worth it. I have lost all spark and interest in this career, but I am in it deep. I can't escape it now. I can't change careers after putting in so much money for this degree. I regret it so much. People get into degrees and career fields too often for money or because of what their parents told them or someone else told them. They're not making decisions for themselves. I don't know the exact situation with this person, but too many people make their decisions based off of how much money can I make? Not thinking about the long-term consequences of, will I like this? Will I enjoy this? And no, working a job is not about doing, not everything you have to like. But I would hope that there are aspects of the career that you choose that you love, and there's a reason that you got into it. Now, they might love medicine. They're just feeling the overwhelm of the decisions they made. There are a lot of ways to not be in this situation, and it just takes a lot of planning. And the hardest thing about medicine is the cost of the degree. There's ways to get around that. Part of that is potentially military and getting a GI Bill to pay for your degree. Part of that is going through, getting into programs that basically you promise yourself to work for this hospital or this program for a certain amount of years, and they will pay for your medical degree. Too many people look at the first option and they say yes to it instead of thinking, okay, is there another way? Is there another way to do this? I did not get student loans. I did not go to college, but I have a lot of assets in my business because I run a camera business. Okay. I rent out cameras and lenses and lighting to the film industry in Atlanta. Now, what that means is I have to spend a lot of money on cameras and lenses and lighting, and that is not cheap. Now, why am I telling you this? Because if you want to get ahead with money, you have to think differently. And basically, whenever I am faced with a problem and there is a solution that seems easy right in front of me, I basically ask myself this, okay, if this solution wasn't in front of me, what are my options? So in other words, if I have, $50,000 worth of camera equipment that I have to buy because this is the new thing that got released and came out and this is what my customers want to rent from me, right? If I have 50 grand I have to buy, and I can get a loan for 50 grand to get that camera equipment. Basically, my question to myself is, okay, if that loan wasn't an option, what are my other options? And that's how you start to creatively think about problem solving. Because too many people take the first solution that is the quote unquote easiest. The problem with that is they don't think about the long-term consequences. This is what happens with people who get into debt anyways. They don't think about the long-term consequences of debt. And will everything actually go perfectly? Because people make decisions with money, especially risky decisions, based on a perfect scenario. So this person who chose their career in medicine made that choice assuming that everything was going to go perfectly, not thinking about the fact that, okay, maybe 4 years into it, I might not want to be doing this. I might realize it's not the thing I want to do with my life, or I may realize that the cost is just so high and the feeling of debt is so overwhelming that I don't even want to finish it. You have to think differently with money and not just go with the first thing that is presented in your face. Anytime I've been faced with a problem when it comes to money, I try and have 3 to 5 solutions that I come up with, that I force myself to come up with, because there is typically always a better, safer, cheaper, whatever you're dealing with, there's always a different way to accomplish something. So when it comes to buying 50 grand worth of equipment, and I know that a loan is off the table, well, now I have to figure out how to get that 50 grand. Okay, maybe I sell some older equipment first to get some, starter cash. Maybe I work out a deal with the manufacturer and I say, look, can I take one of your, pieces of equipment as basically a demo model to rent out, and I will give you a percentage of the profits. I've done that before. I've literally talked to companies and I said, hey, I can't afford to buy your camera right now, but what I will do is I will take one of the models that you have and I will rent it out and I will give you a percentage of the profits. I won't even own it. I will give it back to you after a certain period of time. You can work that out with them. I'm just letting you know what I have done creatively to accomplish essentially the same thing. My point is, whenever you are faced with a problem, money problems, business problems, if there is an answer that is staring at you right in the face, put that one aside for a second and try and come up with 3 to 5 other solutions, because you might be surprised that there are other ways to handle something, especially if the first option is, well, just take out a loan. No, stop. That doesn't need to be your first option. Throw that away. Come up with 3 to 5 other options. If you are forced to come up with other solutions, you will. I promise. I've done this for 13 years. I don't take out debt to get equipment. I grow my business at the speed of my cash. And it's the same way with my personal money in life. I grow and buy things at the speed of the cash that I have in my life. Delaying gratification, being smarter with your money, it's all a part of growing up. It's all a part of being responsible and being a good steward with your money and your business. So that's all I have. That's the worst financial mistakes that these people have made. Tell us in the comments, what are some of the worst mistakes you've made? And start a fight with me about credit cards. I would love to hear what you have to say. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you want more content like this, if you want to hear more about business, if you want to hear more about money from someone who has been there and done that. Hit that subscribe button, please. Thank you very much. We will see you in the next one.